When we think about a predator, we think of everything but a jackal. The most famous predator canine is the wolf, and nobody really thinks about the jackal. But not only are jackals very smart, they're also strategic as well. And what we mean by that is that they're very opportunistic. So they don't do anything without thinking about it first. First, let's see where we can find these guys. Just like hyenas, most jackals are in Africa, but you could find jackals in Asia and Europe, and hyenas are nowhere near Europe. There are 3 different types of jackals. The first one is the black-backed jackal, and just like its name, it has a black back. You can only find this type of jackal in these areas of Africa. If you look at the location these black-backed jackals live, it's pretty weird because it's in 2 different locations in the same continent. The reason for that is, between these lines, the weather is very brutal for these jackals, and that is why they naturally separated themselves. Even though back in the day they were together, but the weather caused them to separate in 2 different areas. The second type of jackal you can find in the wild is called the side-striped jackal. And you can find them in these areas of Africa. The places you couldn't find the black-backed jackal, you could find these guys. Unlike the first jackal we showed you, these guys are tougher and they could survive in brutal weather, even swamps. The third type of jackal you can find in the wild is called the golden jackal. You can find this type of jackal in a much greater area, which stretches all the way from East Asia to Europe. If you look at this map, you can tell that this jackal can survive in all types of weather, from deserts to mountainous areas, to freezing areas, to forests. You could tell that these guys are very tough because they can survive in all types of climate. Just like we said, these guys are canines and they're very similar to dogs. They're very similar to foxes as well, and that is the reason most of the time people mistake jackals for fox. The fox is much more well known around the world, so they always mistake it. If it's at night, you might even mistake them for dogs. Even though it's called the golden jackal, it looks more red than gold. Unlike wolves, which are different sizes depending on what type of climate they live in, all 3 types of jackals are very similar in size. You could compare it to the size of a German Shepherd dog. But the jackals are much skinnier because the jackal has to work a lot harder to get the food, so their average weight is between 10 to 14 kilos. As you know, wolves like to live in packs, and if you see a lone wolf, it's extremely weird. And probably his homies are hiding behind a tree to attack you. But a jackal usually lives alone or lives as a duo, and the duo does not have to be its mate, it could be its friend. They also live in packs, but it's much more rare to see them in that way. Jackal is more different than other canines in a sense that when they find a mate, they stay with them for life. If you've never heard a jackal before, this is how they sound like. Between the 3 types of jackals, the black-backed jackal that live here are the most vocal, and if you live near them, you will be very annoyed. Experts believe the reason they're always howling is that to scare other predators away, especially lions and leopards. If we look at the history of canines, we'll see that the black-backed jackal is the oldest canine in history, at least from the fossils that have been found. This is the order of canines that came into nature, which starts from the black-backed jackal. Then we have the side-striped jackal. Then we have another row, which has the African wild dog in there. Up next, we got the dhole or Asian wild dogs. The next tier is the Ethiopian wolf, golden jackal, then we have the golden wolf, then some canines went from Russia all the way to Alaska to North America and created another tier called the coyote. Then after all that, the gray wolf comes into action. And the last canine that came into nature because of humans is dogs. Just like we said, you can sometimes find jackals that live in groups, but they will never hunt in groups. They either hunt alone or as a duo. Just like other predators, a jackal is extremely quick, and when it runs in full speed, it could speed up to 65 kilometers an hour. This is an extremely fast speed, but it can't do it for a long time. And it's good to know they use this speed to run away, not to hunt or go somewhere else. In our video about hyenas, we said that they are predators, but jackals are not scared of these guys. Jackals, on the other hand, are much more strategic than hyenas, and if they see a pack of hyenas that have hunted something and are eating it, the jackals like to hang around the kill, and they keep trying to steal some of the food. The hyenas don't like it and try to push them away. The jackal is too smart to pick a fight with hyenas, and that is why it tries to be quick and steal some food. But if the hyenas attack, it will run away quick. Since it's hard for jackal to actually hunt meat, they can eat a lot of different things like brown bear. And this goes from berries, different fruits, greens, vegetables. They eat rats, and they could even eat snakes. Another interesting fact about jackals is that when they find a mate, they stay with each other for life. They're pregnant for about 2.5 months, and they could have 2 to 4 puppies. When the mother gives birth, they have to protect them very heavily because they are blind for about 2 weeks. And this is unlike the hyena cub, where it's ready to fight when it's out of the womb. But a jackal puppy has to be taken care of for 2 weeks for it to even start walking. If there's a shortage of food, the male and female have to hide the kids away and go hunting as a duo to find food for them. After a jackal is born, they will stay with their parents until they're 1 year old. But after 1 year old, they have to go start their own family. Jackal puppies, just like dogs, are very playful, and since the day their eyes open, their mother has to watch them extremely carefully because their playfulness can easily get them killed. The biggest enemy to a jackal is an eagle. They could camp in the sky for hours and watch the puppy, and as soon as the mother takes its eyes off the kid, they hunt down. If a jackal's mother is killed, if they're under 6 months, you could say they're not gonna survive. But if they're over 6 months old, they could hunt and survive. But when the parents are present, they don't even let the over 6 months child to go hunting because they can take care of them until they're 1 year old. Just like other canines, jackals will live from 10 to 12 years. Even though jackals take care of their kid, and you could say they spoil their kids, but after they're 1 year old, they have to leave and find their own mate and hunt for themselves. Another good thing you should know is that you could tame a jackal, but not as good as a dog. If you have it since it's a puppy, it's gonna be much more friendly than a wolf. Another reason that you can't tame a wolf is that they're very proud and they usually don't like to listen to someone telling them what to do. But a jackal is very similar to dogs. They are playful and they will listen to you. But the bad thing is, when you tame a jackal, they're only good with you. And if there's a stranger along the way, they will be scared and nervous and they might attack. If you've seen our video about hybrid animals, you'll know that two different animals could mate with each other if they have similar chromosomes. So can a jackal and a dog mate in nature? Yes, they can easily do that. If you look at this list, you could say pretty much all these guys can mate with each other. Mating between dogs and jackals happens a lot between stray dogs and jackals in the wild, especially in Asia and Europe, where the stray dogs are very common. Something that shows the jackal's intelligence is that if it sees a lion chilling and on the other side there's some prey for the lion, it tries to piss off the lion for it to follow it. First, it starts to piss off the lion, and then it runs towards the prey, like for example a zebra. When the lion sees the zebra chilling, it hunts it down, eats it, and there is a lot of food left over for the jackal. Unlike other predators, a jackal is usually to hunt something down 24 hours a day. Even when it's sleeping, it's ready to fight and it's scanning all around itself all the time. So you could say even when it's full, it's always trying to find food for itself. They basically tell themselves, I'm not hungry now, but I will be later. Another interesting fact is that when you look at lions, leopards, and hyenas, however hungry they are, if they see a jackal, they don't want to fight it and hunt it down because they know hunting this thing down is gonna be difficult and they don't want to waste their energy on it. And that is why the jackal is usually not scared of them. One of the biggest enemies to the jackal is an eagle that only attacks the puppies. Oops, I made a mistake. The biggest enemy to the jackal are humans, especially farmers, because the jackal can mess up their produce, eat their animals, and basically cause destruction. Even though a lot of humans and even eagles kill these animals, but fortunately, they are not in danger. And you could say one of the most important things that keeps this animal alive is its intelligence. They keep their puppy alive for 1 year before leaving them, and they hunt strategically. But living in the wild looks difficult because they have to risk their life every day for a piece of meat. It is true that they could live from 10 to 12 years old, but their medium age is about 7 years old. Because when they get old, they can't do anything about it anymore. You could say when they get old, they get a lot weaker and they could get hunted down much easier at that point. Just like other canines, wolves in the wild don't get old either, and most of the time they will die before they're 7 years old. But between all the canines, one of them were the smartest and separated itself from all the wild animals, and that's this animal, dogs. It got itself close to humans. It's the most loyal animal in the world, and that is why most of its problem is solved. But that doesn't include stray dogs, because they have the same problems as a wild dog.